Hello and welcome to this webinar on how to become more confident and to get where you want to go with your horse. What we want to tackle this evening is to try and get you to relax, not blame yourself for problems or not blame yourself for not being more confident, which is kind of common. How to create a program that builds your confidence, things to avoid doing, it's always useful, and how you can help your horse to trust you. Trust and confidence kind of go a lot hand in hand, so we'll be working on those areas as we go through. Set realistic goals so that they will take you where you want to go. I think it's important that this is a practical application, but we're talking a lot about human behavior here. So we're going to be doing some little exercises that you might want to take some notes, scribble some answers down, have a paper and pen handy to be able to do that. I want to be really clear that getting more confidence, becoming more confident, doesn't need you to become the leader alpha mare. Ride them through it, show them who's boss, just get on with it, which is such a common thing that we're told to do, get on with it. Force yourself to do something which you're scared of or to take risks. You know, we're so bad with our advice often, especially well-meaning friends and people I would call yard perts, the yard experts who would help you to do this, do that, do the other. And it's very easy for somebody to come along and say, well, you need more confidence. Really? Guess what? I hadn't worked that out. But how do I get more confident? And it certainly isn't generally done by any one of these things. Sometimes you can do it. If you're a good enough rider and you ride through it enough and you get away with it, then you can gain more confidence. But actually, if you have an accident during that time, if you have a problem during that time, you're going to make the situation much worse. So probably important that we define some confidence. And here's a dictionary definition. Self-assuredness. This relates to your confidence in your ability to perform to a certain standard. So we start to indicate that maybe confidence is about some sort of prediction of our ability to perform. And what I particularly like from Confidence for Dummies, Kate Burton and Brindley Platts, is confidence is the ability to take appropriate action and effective action in any situation, however challenging it appears to you or to others. And I think it's about this ability to take appropriate action is really key. We question whether we can take appropriate action, whether we'll be able to deal with a situation. What happens if starts to plague our minds. And that's what we're beginning to look at here. And that's why it's so important, that definition for me, to be able to start with that with confidence. So what we're saying is you don't think you can cope with what might happen. Now, that's a really thing. If I lack confidence in any situation, not just about horse handling or riding, but of any situation, I start to think that I'm not going to be able to cope with what might occur. And that is something that begins to plague us, begins to slow us down. And that classic what-if game, what if he stops, what if he does this, what if he does that, what if he does the other, that really interferes with our ability to be able to actually just get started. And sometimes, if we've got too many what-ifs, we just choose not to start anything because we're kind of, as you said, actually paralysis by analysis. This might happen, that might happen, what happens if? So we want to get rid of some of that. But first, I want to say, why might it be a good thing to lack confidence? Seems pretty strange, but my experience is a lack of confidence means you feel you won't be able to deal with things that happen or that you can't predict what might happen. How could that be possibly good? Well, if you don't think you can cope, then it probably means you're not sure what might happen. And in that case, your lack of confidence is stopping you doing things. And it's your subconscious that feels you might get hurt or somebody or something you care about might get hurt. Now, if you're having those feelings, then it's probably really good because you're less likely to take risks, you're more likely to avoid conflict with the horse, you're less likely to overreach the horse, and you're less likely to injure the horse. So many people that I meet and work with have a lack of confidence, and they see it as this massive obstacle, this massive problem. They've built it up in their minds. They've been told by friends that they've got to be more confident, they've got to get on with it, they just got to do it, when actually it could well be saving their life. Because if you think about it, that confidence is stopping you doing something that you can't predict the outcome. Riding that horse out, that you can't tell quite how he's going to react in traffic, or handling the horse that might just spin around and kick out. Now, those things are really good because it might actually save you an injury or worse. You know, lack of confidence is your friend as far as I'm concerned. Learn to listen to it, to hear its voice. Don't be tempted to overrule it, unless that's part of your plan. But even then, still listen to it. Don't override it, deride it yourself for lacking confidence. Everybody lacks confidence at certain times, certain issues, certain places in their lives. And it's really just your subconscious saying, I'm not sure how this is going to work out. And simple solution right there, I could say, well, all you need to do is be able to figure out how you can predict what's going to happen, and then you gain confidence. Easier said than done, and that's what we're going to work through during the rest of this presentation. But it is really important for me, you know, the number of people, when we take this obstacle of, oh my gosh, I'm not confident enough, and we take that away from them, it's really exciting because they begin to relax. They begin to see that little voice that says, actually, maybe that's telling me something. It shouldn't be doing this just yet. I haven't done enough training to predict the behavior of my horse. I haven't done enough work to predict whether I can trust them, whether they can trust me. I haven't actually control of the environment. And how can I begin to work to that? Once you see a lack of confidence as your friend, you can begin to work on it, you can begin to stretch it. And I said there, you know, we don't overrule it unless it's part of our plan. And I'm talking really small steps that allow us just a little tiny bit of override there to develop that. And I said, but great, Ben, yeah, that's great. But how does it help me to overcome and become more confident? Surely just accepting the fear means I'll never actually do anything and nothing will change. You think so. You think so, but you have a great desire to do stuff. You have a great desire to move things on. What's stopping you is that inability to predict the future, to know what's going to happen. And if we begin to accept that lack of confidence and say that's okay, we cut ourselves some slack. As we'll see, it's really important. So we're going to just start with a quick exercise, which is to define your confidence. Simply scribble out here, what area do you feel you want to be more confident? Be as specific as possible. Is it riding out on the lanes? Is it riding out just in the arena? Is it just leading your horse from the stable to the field? Is it being in the stable with your horse? Is it handling your horse for groundwork? Whatever it is, that's absolutely fine. But let's clearly define the area that you want to be more confident in. And that's an essential starting point, because as we'll see, we tend to label ourselves as lacking confidence, but most often it's only in specific areas or with specific tasks. We might be fantastically confident in 95% of what we interact with our horses, but there's a little tiny bit we want to work on. And I want to shrink the size of the problem for you, so that it makes it much more easy to challenge and to work with. The next is to write down, what is it that you currently think might happen if you attempt this activity? And what's going to go wrong? You know, what could go wrong? And those could be just a list of things that you might be saying, well, I could get hurt, I could get kicked, the horse could get free and run off, the horse could be injured, you could damage our relationship. There might be a long list, there might be a short list, but let's tackle that list. Let's start to see out on a piece of paper, what is it that you actually think might happen if you attempt the activity that you are lacking confidence in. And it's important just to get these things out, because we're working with human behaviour. So much of it is bottled up in our brain. It whizzes round and round and round. It comes out during coffee time discussions, perhaps with friends or partners, and we don't really see it clearly. So I think these type of things are best done away from the horse, individually, just working with, trying to find out what's the path that we need to take. And just to reassure you, I am going to send those of you registered tonight, I'm going to send you these questions in a little email document so that you can keep using them and follow them up after tonight's webinar. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in this area? 1, I totally lack confidence. 10, I have total confidence. I'm guessing it's not 10, or you probably wouldn't be listening, but I bet it's not 1. I bet you actually have a bit of confidence in the area. It might be 2, might be 3, might be 4, might be 5. You might surprise yourself to think, actually, I've got a little bit of confidence, it's a tiny thing. And again, we're trying to shrink the size of the problem for you. Okay, finally, what makes you think this? What makes you think that you've got this problem in this area, or might have a problem? What's the evidence? Past experience? Has something actually happened with this horse, or was it with a different horse? Have you seen somebody? Have you just been told that you don't have confidence? Has somebody listened to you? What sort of evidence that this is really true? Concrete evidence. I'm not just talking about something you saw on YouTube and it's played in your mind. What really tells you this is a problem? And it might be something as simple, well, I've just never done it with him, so I don't know. That's a lot less convincing than, actually, I tried to get on and he backed me off. And it's amazing to me how much it can take sometimes to gain confidence, you know. I was talking to a lady this week who had been bucked off her horse 5 times over the period of about 2 months. Finally ending up with a broken coccyx and she'd broken fingers in the meantime and all of that sort of thing. And she kept getting back on to solve the problem. Amazing confidence, or completely crazy, I'm not sure which, but that is a common approach. And I want to avoid that. I want us to have one bad experience and start fixing it properly from then. So let's accept the lack of confidence because it means you can relax. Okay, you don't have to beat yourself up for not being good enough. That negative self-talk in your head can be reduced or even stopped. It is normal not to be confident. It is your friend. It is trying to keep you safe, and that's okay. Cut yourself some slack. Don't be hard on yourself, and accept it's normal. And that confidence can be created by taking action. Now, I think this is an essential first step for many people, because we are going, I should be able to do this, I should do more, I must do more, you know, she's doing so and so, you know, and we just talk ourselves around. And the more we focus on that negative self-talk, the less confidence, funnily enough, we have, and the more we rob ourselves of the chance to improve and do something. So cut yourself some slack. Catch yourself. Every time you go, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, just stop it there. Absolutely. Catch it, cut it out. Is that helpful to the situation? Yes or no? If the answer is no, it's not helpful, stop it. Right there. Acknowledging the lack of confidence. Bring your lack of confidence to the conscious thought that allows you to realize it's not you that is an unconfident person, but rather that there are situations in which you lack confident. You know, labeling is something I talk a lot about in behavior, and as we label ourselves as being unconfident, it means everything in the world. I lack confidence. I'm not a confident person. That's seldom true. Very seldom true. We might be extremely confident at work. We might be extremely confident as a parent, as a partner. We might be extremely confident with our artwork, with our hobbies, with our friends, with our driving, with anything that we do. But we might just lack confidence in one area, and beginning to say, actually, it's not me that's an unconfident person, but there are situations in which I lack confidence, again, shrinks the size of the problem and stops us really building it up or working on it. Tip 1, stop labeling yourself as unconfident or not confident. Okay? That really isn't unhelpful. Catch it in your mind, and you require a bit of mindfulness for this to actually think about it and be able to catch it, those thoughts, stop them, redefine it to individual areas of your thinking, reframe. There's something or some things, areas that I lack confidence in. It's kind of important. Catch it, reframe it, realize it's not you that's unconfident. It's certain situations in which you could be more confident, and that's fine. The fear of lacking confidence actually creates more nerves, fear, and lack of confidence than just lacking confidence. I'm not confident enough. I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't cope. You actually build it up in our heads and make it much more of a problem than just if we actually just lack confidence and get on with it, as we'll see. And that's what we're going to get from. We're going to get from a situation where we're lacking confidence and we keep telling ourselves about it and playing it around on our head, hopefully to where we actually just lack a bit of confidence, but we're working on it. Those are two totally different areas, and it's important that we grasp that. You know, I want to stop this self-talk, this negative things that goes on often in our minds for us to kind of focus on, and just say, let's be a bit unconfident. That's fine. Everybody has a bit of fear about stuff. Let's work with it. Let's figure it out. Let's get on with it. Stay safe. That's a lot more productive approach. Now, what I find is that our subconscious beliefs are what is keeping us from believing we can deal with whatever occurs. Once we expose and change our beliefs, we can grow confidence. Let me just explain that a little bit. Our subconscious beliefs, 95% of our brain is about the subconscious thought processes. And we know that confidence is not about knowing all the answers. It's about knowing or believing anything will be okay. Feeling uncomfortable when faced with a challenging task is okay and natural, and even confident people feel this way. The difference is in the belief that the confident person has about the outcome of the situation and their ability to deal with it. Let me just go back here. We'll wait there a little bit. We'll talk about the unconscious mind, and we'll talk about these changing beliefs, because it is important to reframe what we're doing and to have some different beliefs about our ability to deal with problems, whatever they might be. First, I'd like you to do this exercise. What do I really, really want? What would your perfect relationship be like? Write a description of your ideal equine human relationship. That's the one where you're actually going out doing the things you want to do. That's the one where you're leading, riding, cantering, jumping, boxing, whatever it might be. Think about the things that you would do together. How would you respond to each other? How would you cope with difficult situations? Write in the detail about who you feel, about how you feel about your relationship, and who you feel about yourself, how you are about yourself. Really important, because we almost need to have a vision of where we want to go. Sometimes we're saying we're not confident, we can't do this, we can't do that, and actually we've got no idea what it would be like to be confident, or where we would be if we were confident. What would the relationship be like? And a lot of times this is a process called begin with the end in mind. and actually having a target to aim for reduces the size of the gap that we've got to cover. And I think it's a really powerful thing to do. Now, this is something that it might take more than a few minutes to do right now, but it's something that you want to do. This, what do I really, really want? How does that feel? Well, I feel really soft. I don't focus on the I don't want. So I don't want to feel uncomfortable when I go to the stable. I don't want to feel a bit sick when I put the saddle on. Think about how you do feel. I feel calm. I feel a sense of excitement. I feel some joy. I feel some pleasure for being able to do these things. I feel a real sense of being good enough and how much fun it is. He's going to look round at me and kind of just be relaxed with his head nice and low, and we'll walk past that tractor, and it's just a lovely soft feeling. Those sorts of things. Put it in, frame it in a real positive way, but create that image of what you really, really want. And we also, on top of that, need this third exercise, which is to create a desire to be confident. You have to develop the motivation to do the things that scare us and make us feel uncomfortable. What motivation can you find to work with the fear? Now, again, go right back to the first slide, which is why I put it in there. This isn't about riding him through it, making him do things, show who's boss, forcing yourself into dangerous or difficult situations. We are talking again about shaping in small stretches of the comfort zones. But even to get started, we need to find the motivation. What's the motivation? And that links back to what you've just done in exercise 2, which is about that lovely feeling, the sense of emotion about being able to achieve things, to do things, to feel wonderful, to be going out there and achieving your goals together. Is that your motivation? Is it motivation about getting to a particular show, an activity, a level, being able to help your horse more? I'm not sure. But you need to find that motivation. You need to write that down, and you need definitely to keep it in a place where you can see it. So even on days when you're thinking, I'm not sure I want to do this, you get out there and use that motivation just to try a bit harder. You want to be an inspiration to your kids, to your friends, to whoever. Find the motivation. What is it that would make you go, okay, I'm going to feel uncomfortable. I'm going to do just a little bit. Cup of tea time. So let's go back then to talking about the subconscious belief. The subconscious part of our brain, 95% of the brain is activity and power. It doesn't work in the past or the present, only in the now. So you can have picked up a belief about your ability to deal with something a year ago, 6 months ago, when you were a child, and your brain literally isn't thinking that that's a belief that was 10 years old. Okay, your conscious mind thinks in the past, in the future, has a relevancy to time. But your subconscious mind picks up that belief that was planted in your brain in the past and believes totally it's relevant today. So you might have had an accident 2 years ago, and therefore the belief is being around horses, riding is dangerous, I could get hurt. Now, that is true, but is it really true today? Well, no, I've done 2 years more training, I've done 2 years more riding, this is a different horse, all of those things, and our subconscious mind is still behaving and getting our beliefs to drive our behavior from something that happened a long time ago. So it's using information that might be years out of date, which isn't obviously helpful. But it is there to protect you. It's there to stop you getting hurt. That's what our subconscious mind does. It's the part of our brain that you're driving to work and you start thinking about stuff with your conscious mind, and you slip off into the future about, well, what's he going to do? I could do this and that. All of a sudden, you come back to consciousness and realize that you've been off in the future, but somebody's been driving the bus, and it's you. And that's your subconscious mind. It's kept all those habits going about driving and where to turn off and what to do. We've instilled those habits in our mind through repetition, through experience. Brushing your teeth. You don't have to think about brushing your teeth. It's become a subconscious habit. You know how to do it. You put the toothbrush on, you do it. You're thinking about lots of other things. But the problem is when we have these negative beliefs, I'm not good enough, I can't cope, I'm going to get injured, it's a terrible thing that's going to happen. We also don't think about where those beliefs come from. We just behave with the habit. And so this is why it's important we start to study and understand these subconscious beliefs that might be causing our issues and change them. So what are your beliefs about the lack of confidence? And again, this is a bit of exploration that you're going to need to do. You're going to need to write down, well, I could get injured. I'm going to give you a couple of examples in a couple of slides to expand that. But it'd be great to start to explore where those beliefs come from. Does it come from something that's really real? Does it come from parents? Does it come from a childhood experience? Does it happen 2 years ago, a year ago, today, yesterday? I don't know. But where are those beliefs coming from? And you've got to sit there and you've got to think about the emotions that are created when you think about the situation in which you lack belief. How do you feel? I feel I'm not good enough. I feel terrified I'm going to get hurt. When did I get hurt? What's my worry about getting hurt? Well, I've got kids, and who's going to look after the family and those things. So we're going to explore some of those. You're going to ask yourself, what are the two things you really fear might happen with your horse? You know, is it about you getting injured? Is it about the damage to the relationship? Is it about the horse getting injured? Is it about you looking to fall in front of people? Or is it just about worrying that you'll get started and you won't know how to help the horse or get stopped? Get these things out. Often when you get them out on paper, they don't look half as scary as they did when they were whizzing around inside your head. So get them down. Do you use this fear as an excuse not to do things you really want to do? I think most people do. That's why there's frustration. That's why we get cross with ourselves for not being confident, because we're using that fear that we don't get started. What if? Maybe, possibly, could we? And we need to start to understand that we're using that fear to prevent us. And that's quite comes back to our subconscious beliefs that's keeping us safe. Ask yourself this though, are the beliefs you have improving the quality of your life with your equine? Yes or no? If it's yes, fantastic, we're doing the right things and we're getting there. If it's no, do we want those beliefs? Do we need to change them? Do we need to work on them? So here's a belief. I might get hurt. I don't really know what I'm doing, or I'm not experienced enough. Other people know far more than me. So there's a kind of 3 or 4 beliefs that you might have, but that might be all rolled into one major belief. But that's just what happens when you interact with horses. Okay? And there's a degree of truth there, that's for sure. What if we change that belief? What would happen if the belief was different? Because when you look at this one again, you can say, I might get hurt. Well, that's going to stop. I don't want to do that then. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to be able to sort whatever happens out. I'm not experienced enough, I just can't do it. Other people know far more than me. Well, I'll just listen to what other people want, or I'll get them to do it. Or you can see where this belief would lead you. But what happens if you would say, your belief was, although there is a risk of getting hurt, if I listen to my horse and plan carefully, create a safe environment, I can retrain him or her safely. After all, nobody knows them as well as I do. What sort of actions would come out of having a belief like that? Yeah, we acknowledge there's a risk of getting hurt, because there is. We're not pretending to go, no, it's fine, everybody's okay, you're never going to get hurt handling a horse. You know, our last week's webinar about riding out, you know, the statistics, 37 out of every 1,000 rides in the UK ends in some sort of accident. So we've got to acknowledge it, but that then encourages us to listen to the horse, plan carefully, create a safe environment. I can retrain that horse safely. I can do whatever it is that you want to do. After all, nobody knows him better than you are. Now that's motivating. That's encouraging us to do things that we can. And these positive beliefs about our behaviour, we start to instill them. But how do we instill them? Because just saying it once doesn't work. It doesn't even feel real. Doesn't even make you believe it's going to happen. How did those beliefs get into your subconscious to start with? Well, they were repeated. And they had to be repeated to be absorbed and adopted. So somebody somewhere, something happened. And that was scary. It was frightening, and it's usually about creating feeling or emotion. Now, if it could be a one-time deal, if it was someone really special, or if it was some really big activity that happened, a big accident, you could get a belief that said horses are going to kill you, and that's it. However, what generally happens is little things. Something somebody says, a parent says, "Oh, are you sure you're safe doing that?" A partner goes, "Well, I'm a bit worried. You might get hurt. Oh, he's a bit of a nutter, that horse. I should be careful." Gets planted in our brain, and then we start to play the what if game, and we run it round and round and round, and we repeat the experience we might have had. We run the scenario time and time and time and time again until we've ingrained it into our subconscious. This is what happens if you work with horses. You get hurt, things go wrong, you look a fool. And we actually play those beliefs. Now, because the brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's vividly imagined, it's like we've had 50, 60, 1,000 experiences where it's gone wrong. Wow. Is it any wonder these beliefs get ingrained? So if we want to change a belief, we've got to be prepared to repeat it, to be have it absorbed and adopted as a new belief. We can't just say it once. It has to be created feeling and emotion. So if we're going to just flip back to here, we can't just say this, although there's a risk of getting hurt. You actually have to start to feel that, okay, there is a risk of getting hurt, but actually I have some excitement about it if I listen to them, and I can visualize myself working with the horse and kind of seeing them being a bit nervous and being a bit worried and picking up on their body language. And if I plan carefully, oh, here's a shaping plan. I can see my shaping plan. I've written it out. Yeah, that would be great. I'd feel a lot more confident if I knew exactly where I was going. I can create a safe environment. Yeah, well, actually, I'm going to practice on Sunday mornings. What does that feel like? Emotion, really important to get in there. Create a moving, feeling picture of you with a new belief. When you're trying to create something, those images that you've been playing round and round in your head on a negative basis are generally moving. When we try to instill a new belief, we tend to make it very stationary. It's much easier if you're imagining walking the horse, riding the horse, you see in the arena, you're walking the horse on the lead rope, you're creating those good beliefs in your brain. And there's a lot of work to be done away from the arena, away from the horse, actually reprogramming your beliefs in your mind. You have to be mindful of this old negative self-talk. Catch it and change it. We've talked about reframing and those things, because you will just go back to oh, it's going to be dangerous, this is going to go wrong, or what happens if. Catch those things, change them into your new positive belief about what you're going to do. Are we making any sense at the moment? That's a question. There's a lot to take in because we're dealing with the human brain, and we're dealing with sometimes years of people chipping away and creating these negative beliefs about what they can do and how they're going to cope in situations. So what new empowering beliefs could you create about your relationship? I'm not asking you to lie about it. I'm not asking you to say things that just aren't true. What I'm doing is saying, what's real? What would make the relationship actually more beneficial if I believed? Going back to the slides that we've looked at and talked about shrinking the size of the problem, being able to say, you know what, yeah, I know that it's difficult, but I'm pretty sure that if I plan, if I do this, I can achieve what I want to do. And if you could begin to write yourself out some new empowering beliefs about your abilities, replay them, create them in your mind, we don't even need to go near the horse to start to feel that we have the capacity to deal with things. Yes, Ben, that's all very well, but I'm dealing with an unpredictable horse. He might do things I haven't envisioned. We're going to get to the bit about when we actually touch the horse and what's involved there. Because confidence comes from doing and fear from holding back. You know, we have to do things, we have to experience them to really start to gain more and more confidence. And that comes from our belief in ourselves that we can cope with whatever happens. But again, it doesn't mean leaping in, jumping on that horse and forcing him out for a ride. I'll give you a little story of where that can work, but really isn't what we'd recommend. I did a clinic a number of years ago. There was a lady there with a horse that was fine, really. We did lots of work and long reining, and this lady was convinced this horse was difficult and dangerous and was going to have an accident and all these things, and she hadn't ridden out for months and months and months. And so we did all the work, and it was and showed her lots of exercises and take it slow and have a shaping plan and do some long reining and build up these things. And as usual, she went off after the clinic, and I didn't hear from her for a while. And I bumped into her about 3 months later at a different event. And I said, how'd it go? What's up? She said, well, I was driving home and I realised you were saying it was my fault. I said, well, I didn't really say it was your fault. I said you were part of the solution. And no, she said, you were saying, it was down to me really and what I was imagining. And that. So she said, I got the horse tacked up. I was terrified. She said, I went for a wee about 12 times in the stable. I was terrified. I told my husband I was going to be out for half an hour. She said, I forced myself on the horse. I went for a ride. She said, I came back 3 hours later. It was fantastic and I was completely cured. I'm like, wow, that is so lucky. That's not what I meant. That's not what I intended. If you get away with it, yeah, okay, it'll work for you, flooding. But what if in that time she'd have had an accident? What if the horse had spooked, reared, whether she'd got really nervous? We'd have made the whole situation worse. So while I'm encouraging you to do stuff, I'm encouraging you to do little, small, planned stuff that we can control, that stretches the comfort zones a little bit. So how do we sort it out? Training to build trust and confidence. Obviously, you'd guess that shaping would be in there because I think it's such an important thing to do these small steps. And so often I write a shaping plan or get someone to use a shaping plan, not for the horse, but for the owner's confidence. And those small steps we'll have a brief look at because they start to build confidence in the owner and what they can do. Generalization, really important again, not just for the horse, but for the owner. So you start to do things in different areas, different situations. That's how you get to predict your horse's behavior really effectively, which is after all part of the problem. I can't predict his behavior, so I can't predict how he's going to behave. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's about trust. You have to long rein. I think if the problem and your lack of confidence is about riding out or riding or getting on, then you have to do some long reining. So that you can see the horse, you can watch the horse, you can see how he's going to behave without being in a situation where you can do real damage to yourself. And again, we're back to that. Yes, but if I long rein and he spooks and he runs off. Okay, here's the real get-go, is that if you're on his back and he spooks and rears and runs off, you have got to stay on his back, or you're going to get injured or he's going to get injured. And yep, there's maybe a chance you could turn him, but there's a much greater risk you're going to get hurt. Long reining, if he's going to do those things, if you've done it right, if you've prepared him properly, you're going to have just as much control. But if it really goes wrong, you're going to let go of the reins. And the sad thing is you are not going to get hurt or injured, which is really important to me. He might, and I hope that doesn't happen. But you are much safer, funnily enough, doing some long reining, which is often people's fear about long reining. We're going to do the layering, lots of different things at once. And then we need to do these exercises ridden. So changing your behavior isn't much different from building the confidence of a horse, really. One of the things that I think I came across recently, which I just loved, was this: don't fear small steps. Fear remaining still. We tend to think we're not good enough if we're taking small steps. We should be doing more. We should. If I was more confident, I would be out riding by now. And all I'm doing is just long reining him around the arena. That's fine. You're doing something. Don't fear the small step. Fear doing nothing or remaining still. Find those little steps. Enjoy them. Don't worry about what anybody else says. It's easy to be an expert when it's not your horse, it's not your fear, it's not your lack of confidence. I've met many a person who has the best advice in the world about confidence and what to do. And then you turn that camera around and you look at them and you ask them about what they're doing, and they're not doing it. It's easy to compliment. It's easy to make compliments to people about behavior. Oh, you can do it. You're all right. You can get on with it as well. But that doesn't really help. Let's concentrate on these small steps. We're going to stretch your comfort zones. Let's talk briefly about the comfort zones because they're important to get in there. We have to work at the edge of the comfort zone. That little bit of nervous, Now, what tends to happen is, if I ask you when's the last time you climbed a tree, unless you're a tree surgeon or something like that, you're probably going to say when you were a child. Or why? Well, because it's dangerous. I could get hurt. If I asked you to go right out now and climb a tree, how would you feel about that? You might feel, wow, great. I should do more tree climbing. It was really exhilarating. Or you might go, oh, but what if I fall? What if I slip? What happens if? And this is a problem with our comfort zones. If we don't use them, they shrink. And so this lack of confidence causes us to stop doing things, and the comfort zones shrink even further. So what we've got to do is start to recognize them and go, okay, we're going to push them out just a little bit. I'm just going to feel a tiny bit uneasy. This isn't about the lady getting on and going for a 3-hour ride. That is way out of the edge of the comfort zone. That's pushed it from this little bit here to all the way out there. And that's not what you want to do. Can I just put the head collar on? Can I just put the saddle on and walk around? I'm not going for a ride, but even that, for some people, will bring up those stretches of the comfort zone. Can I just sit on his back? Don't do anything else. Don't have to take a step. Just go and sit on his back, and I'm going to get off and finish. Come back to the small steps. It's okay. That's a small step, and if it keeps you safe, and that's all you need to do, brilliant. So we are going to need to stretch your comfort zones. There's no way to do it without feeling a little tiny bit uncomfortable. But the magnificent thing is that's okay. Tiny stretches of the comfort zone. Push it out a little bit. Then your shaping plan will come in. So make the steps small steps. Don't try to tackle the things you fear head on. Break it down into small steps. Repeat each step until you're confident and want to move to the next step. So I go and see people who've had an accident on their horse, and we get talking, and the first thing I'm going to say is, okay, you're not going to ride out. They're like, yes, I was terrified you were going to tell me how to get back on. Okay, now what happened? Oh, well, he was a bit nervous, and I haven't done a bit of riding for a while, but I made myself get on. I knew perhaps I shouldn't, but I got to get on with him, and I got on, and what happened? Oh, well, he veered, and I fell off, and I've broken something, or he's broken something, or if we're lucky, we just scared each other. And that strange thing is, I say, okay, no riding, 3 months. You're not allowed to ride your horse. You have to do the groundwork, the long reining, all the obstacles, the trust, the confidence, the problem solving. Really? Oh, okay. Now, I pretty much guarantee if they do the work within 2.5 months, they'll ring me up and say, can I go for a ride? To which I say, no, I told you 3 months. Knowing full well that in the next week, they'll probably get on and go for a ride. But you want that desire to ride to be there. If there's a little voice saying, I'm not sure I should be doing this, what happens if? It tells you haven't done enough work and training to predict the behavior of the animal, and therefore there's still an element of risk which is too big. When you get to that point where you're not even thinking about, actually, is this going to be a problem? Am I going to have an accident? I just want to get on and go for a ride. I've done the work. Because your brain can predict the behavior, then it's time to get on and go for a ride. Up until that point, small steps, stretching the comfort zone. You don't have to tackle it head on. So obviously, shaping plan's got to be, and for me, a lot of it is about using the obstacles for training as a starting point. Again, because it allows you to predict the behavior of the horse. Foundation for all equines, whether young and experienced, starting careers, behavioral problems caused by fear, previous bad experiences, or for humans that lack some confidence. Where do I start? What do I do? Don't go to the problem, fix the problem. Start working with your horse with things that it can do. There's a horse that you see in the pictures there, that little bit nervous with that inflatable hand, and we begin to build that confidence around being able to touch that. Why? Because it allows you to predict their behavior. Once you start walking over tarpaulins, under bunting, once you're starting to do balloons and poppers and things like this, you start to really get to know your horse and be able to predict their behavior. You start to get to understand what they're likely to do. They start to get to understand what you're likely to do. That builds confidence, that builds trust. We start to be able to proceed. And so often, like I say, these shaping plans have just as much impact on the owner's ability to know where they're going, to slowly build confidence, that they're just as powerful for us humans. And you could do a shaping plan for public speaking, for losing weight. I've got one of those. For driving in a big city, for anything you want. So shaping plans apply to humans just as much as they do to horses. It's just these, we're talking about doing it for the horse, and the human has a side effect of learning them too. And the correct use of a variety of these obstacles during training transforms human behaviour in four ways. You're going to stretch your own comfort zones, okay, at some point. Now, if your problem isn't on the ground, that's fine. Still do the activity, still do the long reining, and then do them ridden. You will find the point where you start to stretch those comfort zones, and through doing the generalisation, start to do those exercises elsewhere, guess what? You're going to stretch your comfort zones. It builds confidence. Confidence is about the ability to predict how you're going to deal with a situation. Well, the funny thing is, the more you do of these exercises, the more stuff you know about how you're going to deal with the situation. You will overreach the horse a little bit. You'll ask it to do too much, but you'll also be able to deal with that and work with it. And the more evidence that you have for dealing with it, the better and more confident you'll become. You're going to learn how to solve problems. So you're going to get yourself a bit tied up, inside out, upside down, whatever it might be, with your tarpaulin and your bunting and those sorts of things. You might push the horse a little bit too far. Its energy might come up. You'll work through it and come down. Because your steps are small, because you're working in a safe environment, because you're progressing at the right pace. All of this builds trust. Trust in the horse and trust in your ability to do things. Phenomenal amount of trust comes from just doing the work together. Remember, this obstacles allows the human comfort zones to be stretched and controlled. So if your shaping plan is for, say, getting on and going for a ride, there's a shaping plan for accepting the rider. The steps are so small, you don't progress to the next step until you're not worrying about really taking that step. You're pretty sure you can predict the horse's behaviour, and therefore it feels good to take the next step, because you've repeated the step you're at until you're comfortable with it, and quite frankly, it's getting boring and I want to move on. In working together, learning about how each partner will react, both the human and the animal will become able to predict the behaviour of the other. Trust develops between the two. That's just crucial. People talk all the time, how do you get it? It's just that ability to predict the behaviour of your partner. And as far as I can see, there's only one way to get it, and that's doing stuff together. But small stuff, tiny steps, finding the things you can do, making it work for you. Don't go to the problem to solve the problem. Let's just pause for a second. Just to lot to take in, a lot of thought processes, and that's why I'm going to send you some of the questionnaire slides again, so that you can do those questions and work on them. But 4 things that you've learned during this webinar. What would you give them? What would you say? So this little extract here, as we begin to draw to a close, comes from my ebook, The 50 Elements of Horsemanship. Courage is not the absence of fear, but acting even though you feel afraid. Fear is the great thief of our relationship with our horses. Horses are strong, powerful animals capable of hurting us without intent. This potential often paralyzes our interaction with our horse. Too often we are told by others not to be afraid, and that we will not achieve anything until we get rid of our fear. So we do not act because we still feel fear. It is not the presence of fear that limits us, but rather the lack of courage. When you feel fear in an area of your relationship with your horse, you should use that to guide you. Accept your fear as understanding and healthy, and begin to act with courage to work in the areas you find frightening. Act with courage to use the small steps to challenge the edges of your fear. This way, you have a much greater chance of succeeding. Find the small steps. and enjoy them. The small steps allow you to enjoy them. They allow you not to overdo it. Here's a little code from the 50 elements of horsemanship, and there's just a set of 50 things that people talk about in horsemanship, but very short extracts like that, with a little exercise to expand and work on them with your horse. And the idea is that you can just draw them out, pinpoint them, and take one and say, actually, that's what I'm going to work on today. Tomorrow, sit for 5 minutes and think about the things that you fear. Write your fears down if you can, to show that you have accepted them. For each area, think of one small step you can take today to challenge the area of your fear. Act with courage and be proud of yourself no matter how small your steps are. Courage grows from doing and fear from holding back. You know, celebrate your talents, think positively, but the key thing here is you've got to do these exercises. You've got to do the work. It's that old thing. What's the secret of horsemanship? You've got to do the training. You want to change the horse's behavior? You've got to do the training. You want to change your behavior? I'm afraid you've got to do the training. But find that small step. And the step might be just writing about it. Might be just talking about it. It might be just writing a shaping plan to deal with it. That can be enough of a stretch of your comfort zone, because the thought of having to do it creates a fear in you. You don't even have to have done it. Just writing about it can be enough of a stretch of your comfort zone to get started. That's how you begin to change your confidence. I met lots of people who just quietly start out doing things, and they trust themselves, and that trust develops that they're going to do the right things for their horse. Most people know the right thing for their horse, in my experience. They just need permission to do it and to work with it. And when you stop everybody else's input, listen by all means, but just trust yourself. You know what's right with your horse. Most people make some real progress. There were a couple of questions that people kind of wanted answered, and about liberty work. But I mean, I'm not being in the wrong place at the wrong time with a very quick-witted, fast-moving Arab. Okay, well, the key here is probably don't be in the wrong place, which means maybe not going to the problem to solve the problem. Maybe we've got to do some exercises in safer environments about getting him to relax and be calm and to build our confidence. There might be about equipment, so we might be talking about a hard hat, body protector, pair of gloves, those sorts of things which start us to feel confident, even in the tiny things, not so that we can then go and take risks. That we start to go, okay, can I do standing still and being bored? Maybe I need to train my quick-witted, fast-moving Arab, but sometimes we just have to stand there for 5-10 minutes and do nothing. And that might start in the stable, it might start outside the stable, it might start in those sorts of areas, so that we can begin to do those things. I certainly can see from this type of question that the worry is, I've been in the wrong place at the wrong time, I'm going to get hurt. Then we probably haven't done enough work at predicting his behavior, and maybe liberty work in this stage is a step too far. If there's a real possibility that might happen, maybe we have to go back a step and then put him back on a head collar and a lead rope and just do some work with him, so we start to rebuild our confidence and trust, so that when we can move on to some liberty work if we want to. Nothing wrong at all with going back down the shaping plan, building our strength and our confidence and coming up. Backing the horse and hacking out, that kind of comes down to some of our riding stuff that we did in the webinar about riding and napping behaviours. It really is about having the shaping plan. Do the things we talked about a little bit in this webinar about having the shaping plan for obstacles, a shaping plan for riding out, the shaping plan for advanced obstacles. All of those things start to build the skills. There's a shaping pack for starting a horse. It's got six shaping plans within that. You start following those, you've got confidence. You know where you're going. The steps are tiny. I defy anybody not to use that and feel more confident, because they don't have to be thinking, what if? They know what's going to happen because they've got the steps written down in front of them. You've probably got 500, 600, 700 steps in those 6 plans that allow you tiny increments, which you can build on. Getting in and trusting my young horse. Find the easy things. Even if you have to start on the outside of the stable, the outside of the field, the outside of the paddock, that's absolutely fine. Make sure the environment's good. Make sure there's no pain involved, obviously, with any situation. Do easy things. If you're lacking confidence, it's probably because you're trying to go too fast, because you're trying to do things that are beyond their capabilities and beyond yours. Bring it back to what's easy. Can I just stand and groom my horse? Can I stand outside the school and groom my horse? Can I just walk around the arena once and leave? Can I just step into the arena, turn around and come back out again? And until I've done that a dozen times and I'm feeling confident, I'm not going to take a step 10 meters into the arena. I'm just going to walk in, turn around, come out. I'm just going to sit on the fence, jump off the fence, take 2 steps into the environment with him and come back out again. Until that becomes so boring that I take the next step, until I've got the evidence of how he might behave. Coming back to the tiny steps, building trust, building confidence, having a shaping plan, cutting ourselves some slack with what we do. There's lots to work on, away from the horse, then taking it back to you and your horses. Any questions, any thoughts? Has that been of any help whatsoever? Let me just check this on the side. Oh, on the side here. Great. I love the fact that although you're doing very small steps, they are still steps. Yay, fantastic. That's really good. That I'm generally doing my best. Great, fantastic. You're genuinely doing your best. Don't measure yourself against anybody else. It's not their horse, not you. Brilliant. Great. Cut yourself some slack. You're doing the best. Yeah, don't compare yourself to anybody else and what they can do. You know, because so often people are hiding their own fears, their own confidences, and it's not helpful. You're measuring against other people, and we're all guilty of that at times. So, really important to just cut yourself some slack. Do those exercises that are there on this presentation, and get yourself a shaping plan in place. Anything else? Any other questions? Stay safe. Take small steps, and cut yourself some slack. Thank you.